Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on this snowy day. Hope everybody is safe and warm and had a snow day or something, resembling a snow day. My name is Rob Flynn. I'm the academic director at Centercourt 360. I'm just trying to continue to admit people into our meeting here. So welcome. We're excited to provide you guys at Centercourt 360 with just any kind of content, any kind of support that beyond kind of our normal coaching in our club team. So whether that's nutrition, whether that's admissions, recruiting, test prep, academic work, mental health, mental preparation. We're going to be putting out some webinars and some ways for everybody to engage on some things that I think we all agree are important topics, and that's why everybody is spending some time even on a 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. So we have tonight Tim Clifford, our head of strength and conditioning for Centercourt. He's got a great presentation about what to do during these 2 weeks. Very kind of unique situation where gyms are in a different situation than they normally are. But for everybody out there who's a committed athlete, it's very important that we really kick the off season, you really kick this period off as strongly as possible. So I'm excited to get into what Tim's going to put out there for everybody. We'll send the recording to everyone who's registered as well, and I have some of his information at the end for people that are if you want to reach out. I know Tim loves to work with our teams, work with our players. So without further ado, I'm going to share the screen here and get him going. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Hope you are enjoying your snow day today, getting outside, enjoying some snowball fights and sleigh riding. This is going to be pre-recorded just because with the weather we didn't want to take any chances and making sure that we can get this out on time. So tonight's presentation is going to be holiday workouts and making the most of your holiday break. I'm not sure the exact setup, but you guys will have a link to get to this presentation, and you can just kind of follow along at home as we go. So obviously happy holidays. Obviously this is going to be a presentation for the next 2 weeks. So depending on when you watch this, if it's going to be live tonight or during the weeks, I hope you're enjoying your holiday, whatever it is you celebrate. All right, so making the best of your time at home. Tips and tricks to staying active. I find it very useful to set a schedule. Setting a schedule each time and each day is very critical to any time off, as we tend to break our normal habits when we get into holiday times. And once you're off if you're a student athlete, once you're off your normal school schedule, or for adults, our normal work schedule. And if your day is packed with family activities during the holiday break, or you're doing the school project, you want to take any time that kind of comes up, any quick little break, and bang out some sit-ups, bang out some push-ups, just something nice and quick. If you have a second, all of those things will add up over the day. And then set an activity goal for each day. I use my Fitbit, Apple Watch, or you can use any sort of app-based tracker just to kind of set your step goal for the day, set your activity goal for the day. Whatever it is, use whatever is at your disposal to make sure you're getting a little bit of activity each day, and especially throughout the entire week. I find it useful to set a frame of mind before the break starts. So I know going in that I might be off for the week of Christmas. I know that I'm going to make sure that I set a frame of mind that I'm not just going to be off. I'm still going to try to make sure I get those exercise days in, those running days in, those lifting days in, whatever it is. Don't view it as time off per se, more as just an opportunity to continue your training and to continue to push yourself, especially if we're a student athlete. We really want to take this time where we might be away from our coaches, away from our teammates, but still make it an opportunity to train and to push yourself and to continue to get better, which is the goal of all of us coaches. So basic nutrition goals for the holiday. Moderation is the name of the game. Moderation, moderation, moderation. we will all break some rules during the holidays, but we should always aim for moderation. If you're gonna have cookies around the house, just have one instead of 6. Like our exercise, we should have goals and expectations when it comes to what we're going to do food-wise over the holidays. Always set a goal, always have expectations of what it's going to be. That way, when you come into contact with, a giant Christmas dinner or a giant Hanukkah dinner, we're not going to be without inhibition, and we're just going to eat everything. Use tricks during big holiday meals, like using smaller plates to adjust your portion size. Portion size are always very good, are always a problem when it comes to holiday meals. We tend to, pack our plates with things, but I find it useful to just grab a smaller plate, and that way we're not getting as much food. Using smartwatches and, again, nutrition apps to track our calories is extremely useful. I do it, again, with the Fitbit app. I know Apple has something similar. The databases that they pull from now are pretty robust, that you can pretty much get anything in there. And as long as you know approximate weight or size of what it is you're eating, they tend to be pretty accurate. And this will also help set your activity as well, because at the end of the day, no matter what diet you're following, the weight loss, weight gain, it comes to calories in and calories out. That is the be all end all. Whether you're doing a paleo diet trying to gain weight, gain muscle, or you're doing something that you're trying to cut weight. At the end of the day, for our overall health in general, it's going to matter what we eat. But if we're just looking to stay the same weight, it's calories in, calories out. It'll take a little bit more concentration during the holidays to be on top of this, obviously, because food is more readily available. But if we take in more than we put out, we are going to gain weight. So using a fitness tracker or a smartwatch is a really good way to know where that balance is. If we've taken in 3,000 calories, I know I need to burn 3,000 calories. Just look at your watch and see where you're at. I find that very, very useful, especially during the holiday times. So holiday workout schedules. In general, baseline, always look for 30 minutes of activity in any given day. This is a basic rule, and it applies to our off days as well. We always want to have active rest as opposed to passive rest where we're just laying around. Resistance training. I'm going to be speaking generally about athletes, but this will apply to Gen Pop adults as well. Resistance training, we're looking for somewhere between 2 to 5 days a week for resistance training. 2 to 3 days if you're doing total body workouts, which when we go over the workouts at the end, they're going to be total body workouts. I think athletes should train like they play. Same thing for adults. I like to do full total body workouts, but if you do split training, if you are following a split routine where you're doing, shoulders and back one day and legs another day, and any sort of split like that, you can train up to about 5 days in any given week. You do need about 72 hours between resistance training workouts to get the most out of it. And that is simply because we are not building muscle when we're lifting. We're actually breaking muscle down. So it is in the rest period between our lifts that we're actually gaining that muscle back. The body comes in and repairs all of the tears that we did when we were squatting, when we were benching, when we were doing whatever it is, the training that we were doing, and especially at night while we sleep. And the body comes in and repairs those rips, and that's where the strength gains come from. So always want to make sure you have enough rest between your lifting days and your resistance training days to see the benefits of it. So I know a lot of teenage boys like to lift every single day, and that could become detrimental to their health and detrimental to their performance on court, on the field, and in general life, if you're, again, a Gen Pop adult. Cardiovascular training, 3 to 5 days a week. And cardiovascular training can happen every day at a moderate pace. Again, 30 minutes of exercise, 30 minutes of activity a day is key. So this could just be walking or hiking. And then 3 to 5 days will be for the more intense kind of limit pushing training. That is like you're training for your actual sport, you're training for whatever competition. If you're an adult, if you have an upcoming race, I know as a runner, I'm very much looking forward to races being back in the picture here in the next few months. So I'm starting to set up my training program for the next 3 to 4 months when those races start to come back. So 3 to 5 days will be that type of training where we're looking to set a goal, achieve that goal, and push past whatever limit we might have set in the previous workout. All right, schedules continued. So again, I'm going to focus on some athletes, but this will also work for adults in terms of what it is you're training for. So student athletes, so power sports. So we're looking at things like baseball, football, volleyball, anything where we're not really, I'm going to define this later as anything under 2 miles of activity during your competition or under 30 minutes of activity in that particular competition. So for power sports, we're looking at minimum of 3 days of resistance training. Again, if they're doing splits, we can bump that up to 5. And then 2 days of base cardiovascular work, meaning, for baseball players, which I was one, we don't need a ton of cardiovascular training other than to maintain a healthy base in terms of your lifestyle. We do want to do quick burst, power style running because that's what is needed in baseball. For something like football, we need to add a little bit more in there because depending on the position you play, there's a bit more work involved. And then 2 days of active rest. Again, always getting those, 30 minutes of activity in, even if it's just a walk around, the block with your family for 30 minutes. Endurance / power sports. So with this, we're looking at sports like tennis or soccer, where we're going to have more than 2 miles within any given competition, and they're going to be for both of those sports well over 30 minutes of activity in any given competition. We'd be looking at 2 to 3 days of resistance training. It could be on the lower end, depending on in season, out of season, and those considerations. And then 3 days of cardiovascular work. We want to use a bit more cardiovascular. You need a much bigger base of cardiovascular strength for a sport like soccer, as opposed to a sport like baseball or football. And then 1 to 2 days of active rest, again, with that 30 minutes of activity. Some stretching, some rolling, some rehab stuff as well is always good to throw into those active rest days. Workouts. So for this presentation, we're going to go over 3 options for the resistance training, which is basically at home, 0 equipment. Then we're going to look at home with limited equipment, meaning we might have a couple dumbbells, we might have some resistance bands and things like that. And then at home with a full gym or in an actual gym environment, which we are open for limited capacity at our gyms and obviously the other gyms in the community that you might go to. So at home with no equipment. We'll start off with lunges in any variation. So we have forward lunges where we're stepping forward. We have reverse lunges where we might be stepping backwards. And then obviously a walking lunge where we're propelling ourselves forward through that lunge. We're going to look at somewhere around 15 reps. We're going to keep the reps a little bit higher when we're not using any weight or resistance bands, because obviously the more resistance you add, the harder it becomes, the less reps you're going to be able to do. So we're going to work up in that 15 rep range on each leg, so that'd be 30 lunges total, followed by some push-ups. I have 10 reps here, but if you're on the stronger end, you could bump that up to 15 or 20. This is pictured here as your standard push-up. We also have the modified version, which is just with our knees bent and our feet up. That will make it a little bit easier. And if you do have some bands or something at home, you can add resistance to a push-up as well. Prone IYT, we can see pictured here, keeping our arms nice and straight. We're going to be raising up so our body looks like an I. In that second photo there, the body looks like, or the arms and the body look like a Y, and then lastly a T. So this is going to be working our upper back, mid back, and lower back as we do this exercise. And this is a very good postural exercise, as well as something we can do to work our back without any sort of equipment, no pull-up bars or anything like that. It's a great way to work on those back muscles. Continued here still with the no equipment phase. We have our standard plank for around 1 minute, depending on your conditioning status and your strength level. We can bump that up a little bit higher. We can drop it down a little bit lower. Side planks, 45 seconds. Again, we can take that a little bit higher or a little bit lower, depending on your strength and conditioning level. And we'll do this 4 to 5 times through, done as a circuit. So you'll start out with the lunge, then you'll move into the push-up, the IYT, the plank, and then the side plank, and then you'll go back to the top. This is a good way to turn any workout into not only a total body workout, but it's a good base cardiovascular work, as we're using different parts of the body. So the demands for blood flow is going to change as we go throughout this workout. And that's a good way to maintain good heart health and general physical fitness as well. So at home with limited equipment, some bands, maybe some dumbbells to possibly work with. All right, so similar idea of the workout. We'll start with some banded squats. I have pictured here with the resistance bands over the shoulders. This is one way to do a resistance band squat. We can also use our lateral ankle bands and put those around the knees to add some resistance as our knees push out into the squat. For the most part, I like to have, or I teach, when I teach athletes to squat, I'll have them sit down to something. So if you have a low bench or a chair that you can sit down to, that helps us maintain a good squat position as opposed to kind of falling forward. We want to have that butt go back, way back, like it's reaching into a chair. Second, we're going to have double legs on this one. Since we have some equipment, we can add a little bit of resistance. We're doing a lateral lunge here. This is pictured holding a dumbbell in a goblet position. I find this is the best way to weight a lateral lunge. And basically, as she sits into that lunge on that right leg in this photo, the butt's going to go back. The opposite trail leg stays nice and straight. We're working on the right side, our hamstrings and glutes. And then on that left side, we have our adductors working. You'll feel that big stretch on the inside of your leg. For these banded squats and the lateral lunge, I have it set at 12 reps. Dumbbell vertical press. We're looking at 12 reps here. I have this in a kneeling position. This is assuming we don't have any benches or anything like this, but it can be done seated. I find kneeling is a really good way to teach a vertical press. As you can see pictured here, as he presses up, he has his opposite arm kind of wrapped around his rib cage. This is the way that I teach athletes and clients as well. It helps reinforce that we don't want our chest to open up really wide as we press. We want to keep a nice neutral back. We always teach, especially in a standing vertical press or standing press, that we want the weight to have an escape valve all the way down to the ground. So if our back is arched, if our chest is tall, that weight as it presses down will sit in our low back, which is what we do not want. We want that weight to get transferred all the way down to that bottom knee. So kneeling is a good way to teach a press. If you're doing it on a bench, we'd want to make sure the back stays nice and flat on the bench. If you can't maintain a flat back when you're doing a vertical press, anything over your head, we need to lower the weight, because again, that can put stress on our low back, which is something we never want to do. Next, we have a dumbbell row. At 15, we can always pull a little bit more than we can press. So if you don't have a heavier dumbbell, we'll do some more reps, get it up in that 15 or 20 range. We have it pictured here being done on a bench, but this can be done, just leaning over against the wall, as long as we get around 45-degree angle. An ottoman in your house, some chairs, anything where you can kind of kneel and get a nice flat back position. We're just driving that elbow up and squeezing the muscles behind our shoulder blade. Continued here, we have a banded rotation times 12. This is pictured as an animation here. I couldn't find a really good depiction of a good cable rotation with people on the internet. So this is what a cable rotation looks like in animation, keeping the arms nice and straight and just making sure our chest, it's actually pictured pretty well here in this drawing, our chest and our hands track together as one. We don't want the arms to be doing the motion. This is a total body core exercise. And lastly, we have what's called a banded Superman. Again, using a resistance band, we would hold in our right hand and have the band on our left leg, and then we raise those up and out. This is an exercise working on all of the muscles in our back, which is part of our core. Some people forget that. We want to make sure we're using our low back and our spinal erectors, all of the muscles that work straight down the spine, to keep those strong and healthy. Again, we'll do 3 to 4 rotations on this. If you're again more fit, more strong, more up towards that 4 rotations. If we're just a beginner, more down towards those 3 rotations through. You can play around again with the reps, and you can also play around with the amount of rest that you're getting between each. The less rest, the more cardiovascular style that this workout will be. The bigger the rest, obviously the heart rate will go up and then it'll come down. So it'll be a bit easier with more rest time. So play around with it as you do these workouts and see kind of what works for you. So now with the full gym, either at home or at some club in the area, or even with us, we'll do some weighted dumbbell lunge. Pictured here, this is a forward lunge. So he steps forward and then steps back. Again, you can do any variation, reverse or walking. The key, and it's pictured pretty well here in that center, in the center depiction of the gentleman lunging, we want to make sure our knee, our hip, our shoulder, and our ear are in a nice straight line when we lunge. We don't want to see our chest collapsing forward, our shoulders kind of rounded, or that front knee over our toe. We want to keep a nice 90 degree angle on our knees with a nice vertical knee, hip, shoulder, and head in that nice straight line. Secondly, we'll go into a single leg squat. Again, he's pictured here going down to a bench. The goal on this is to lower yourself slowly and controlled, tap the bench, and then come right back up. We don't actually want to sit down. We want to keep that leg engaged through the whole exercise. So it's just a tap and then right back up. Followed again by a dumbbell flat press. This is pictured here at a 90-90. I like to do this more at a 45, so those dumbbells would be rotated in just slightly. It's a little bit smoother motion for our shoulders and for all of our upper body athletes. You know, if you're doing any throwing or swinging, we want to keep those shoulders nice and healthy. I also generally coach athletes to have their feet up on the bench with them. This just keeps them a little more honest when it comes to the press, and it makes it a little bit more of a core exercise. Followed again by a lat pull down. Again, we can pull a little more than we can press, so I usually do a little bit higher reps on any sort of pull. This is seen on a lat pull machine that you would see in a gym. His hands are a little bit wide in this picture. I'd like to see them a little bit more narrow, just outside the shoulders. That makes for a little better squeeze on the lat muscles when we're all the way down. You want to pull that right down to the clavicle or right down at the base of your throat. You can also do a pull-up, which would be the exact analog of this exercise, just done with body weight instead of a machine. Into a shoulder exercise. So we have lateral raises. This is done with dumbbells, can also be done with resistance bands. We have that at 10 reps. We want to make sure we get to that 90-degree angle. We don't really want to go much higher than that. Followed by a kneeling cable pull-off press. So in this depiction here, he has his knee off the ground, so we're basically in a lunge. We start with that cable or band against our chest, and then we press out. The goal is to be able to maintain a nice straight and neutral posture as we hold that tension for around 5 seconds. We'll bring it back in and then press it back out 2 more times, holding for about 15 seconds total. And again, you can play with those sets and reps, make it 4 at 5 or make it 3 at 6 or 7, depending. As you go throughout these workouts, you want to make it a little bit harder. Next, we have a cable wood chop, or more specifically, this is a reverse wood chop. We're starting in a low position, so he's loading his legs up and then rotating up and across our body. So we're getting abdominal work as well as obliques as we raise up and out. The reverse of this is starting in the high and chopping down low, which is something you can do as a variation on this. So that's the full in-home with gym workout. Now, let's move on to our cardiovascular work options. Again, going to be talking mainly about athletes, but again, if you're an adult just training for something, these things will apply as well. So power athletes, any sport that requires under 2 miles of running during competition or less than 30 minutes of activity. So this can be done on any machine or running machines, meaning your ellipticals, your bikes, your steppers, anything like that that you might have access to either in a gym or at home. And then running, obviously, you can do either on a track or just out in the world. For power athletes, we like to keep the rest a little bit higher than our work because that's what their sport demands. So I have an example here of a 1 to 2 interval. Some examples of this would be 20-second sprints with a 40-second rest. Or if we want to work more into the cardiovascular range, 1.5 minutes of running followed by 3 minutes of rest. A workout example of this would be 1.5 minutes run with a 3-minute rest, and we do around 6 reps of that. We want to get up to around a 30-minute total workout. Again, depending on the sport, depending on your workload, you can increase that or decrease that depending on exactly the demands of your sport. But this is a standard kind of look for athletes who we really don't want them running for extended amounts of time because they're their sport requires a more powerful build and a more powerful version of the cardiovascular system. So we want quick spurts of high intensity followed by a decent amount of rest. For something like baseball, this would be running from home to second, and then we're going to hang out for the next minute or two until the next batter is up, and we might have to run again. Or in football, for a lineman, we're going to have 10, 15 seconds of intense activity followed by rest. So this is kind of how we want to train those athletes to kind of mirror what they're asked to do during their sport. So for our endurance/power athletes, so this is anything requiring over 2 miles of running during the competition or over 30 minutes of activity. So depending on what your sport is, you can kind of figure out within that frame. Obviously, some sports are not going to fit nice and neatly into this outline, but this is just generality. So you, as a participant, can kind of figure out where it is that your sport is going to fall, or your competition or your activity is going to fall. So again, this can be done on any machine or with running. On this one, we're going to have more work than we're going to have rest. So we're looking at a 2-to-1 interval training here. So an example of that would be 30 seconds of sprinting followed by around 15 seconds of rest. This would be analog, again, to something like soccer, where we might have to run all the way up the field. We're going to get a brief respite until that ball comes coming back the other way, and now I'm going to have another 20, 30 seconds of running. So we want to train them in that same ratio of work to rest, so they become more fit and more attuned to being able to complete an entire soccer match, let's say, without becoming winded or tired. Another example of this, more into the cardiovascular end of things, meaning we're going to be running for a bit longer. We'd have 2 minutes of running followed by a minute of rest, that 2-to-1 ratio. An example workout of this is something I would do for, this is something we do for tennis players a lot, and for soccer players when I work with them. This is a pretty good workout, which would be 3 minutes of running followed by a minute and a half of rest. If this is done on a track, we'd be looking at probably a lap and a half to 2 laps of running followed by a minute and a half rest times 6 reps. Both of these workouts are going to finish somewhere around 30 minutes, depending on obviously warm up and cool down. You want to warm up for around 10 minutes. You want to cool down for 5 to 10 minutes as well. So you'd be outside or at the track or on your machine for around 45 minutes, which is a good length of workout. So obviously we're in the middle of possibly a snow day for most people here. So a quick high intensity training home workout or HIIT workout, something that we can do if we don't have access to any machines and we can't go outside running because of snow or some other reason. This is just a nice HIIT workout. This is something I've done myself, especially during the quarantines when, home with the kids and stuff and I can't get out to run. I want to get a nice sweat going. This is a good little workout to do as that option. So we'd start with jump ropes. If we don't have a jump rope or you don't have access to any sort of rope, you can just do bunny hops, which is basically just bouncing up on our toes. You can mimic that arm motion to get the arms into the equation again. We want multiple parts of the body working whenever we're doing something like this because we want a lot of blood flow going. We want the cardiovascular demands to be high. Followed by 15 burpees into jumping split squat, which is basically a lunge. You jump and then land in the alternate position, left leg forward, right back, jump, right leg forward, left back. Followed by planks or plank ups. And this is, you can see pictured here, you start in a plank position. We go up to one arm, up to the other, and then back down. I'd do 10 on each arm, 10 with the right leg, or 10 with the right arm leading, and then 10 with the left arm leading. So that'd be 20 total, followed by a minute and a half of rest. So you're looking at about between 15 burpees, 15 jump squats, and 20 plank ups total, around a minute for each of those. So that'd be 4 minutes of work, followed by a minute and a half of rest. And then you can repeat that 3 to 4 rotations. If we do that 4 rotations, 4 minutes of work, that's around 16 minutes of actual work with a minute and a half rest. You're up in that 20-30 minute range, depending on, again, your warm up and your cool down. So this is a good, fun, active way to kind of get a little bit of cardio going when we can't get out there and do that running or do those ellipticals, depending on your situation. So that's about it. Obviously, stay safe, stay warm, and make sure we stay active. Again, this is pre-recorded, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at tim@centercourtclub.com for any comments, questions, or concerns. Happy holidays.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This will be our final Centercourt 360 meeting until the new year. So look out for some of the content that we have coming your way regarding test prep. We have a program on diversity and inclusion that we're excited about for our student athletes, and it's just going to be a great year. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will send the link of the video out if you weren't taking notes and want a little bit some follow up to be able to do some of this stuff yourself. So thanks, everybody, and have a great night.